Treasurer. Good evening. I'd like to call this regular board business meeting to order and ask the treasurer to call the roll.
President Baker.
Present.
Mr. Brown.
Here.
Vice President Cole. Ms. Gibbs.
Here.
Ms. Hudson.
Here.
Mr. Peretti.
Here.
Ms. Reyes.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer, and I'd like to call on Board Member Reyes to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. The board will be going into executive session shortly. We will then return as soon as possible. On behalf of my colleagues, I thank you all for your patience. I'm going to ask Board Member Gibbs to offer a resolution, or a motion, pardon me.
President Baker, it is recommended that the board recess into executive session per section 121.22 G1 Ohio Revised Code to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee, and Ohio Revised Code per section 121.22 G3 to confer with legal counsel regarding issues involving the board that are the subject of pending or imminent court action.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbs. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Mr. Treasurer, please.
President Baker.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs.
Yes.
Ms. Hudson.
Yes.
Mr. Peretti.
Yes.
Ms. Reyes.
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. We will return as soon as possible. Thank you for your patience. Thank you. Thank you for your patience, everyone. We really appreciate it. The chair will now entertain a motion that we adjourn out of executive session.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Treasurer?
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Vice President Cole.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs.
Yes.
Ms. Hudson.
Yes.
Mr. Peretti.
Yep.
Ms. Reyes.
Yes.
And President Baker.
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you very much. All right, now let's take public comment. We do have one speaker who signed up to address us this evening. His name is John Boston. Topic, Douglas School Board Action, make provision for us to partner with them. Mr. Boston, please approach the podium. Good evening. You have 4 minutes.
Good evening, President Baker, Vice President Cole, Treasurer Bayorek, Internal Auditor Smith, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Good. In the past 3 years, the Central Church has served over 500 children and families through successfully meeting their needs and mentoring their hearts and minds. Many of those children currently represent the brightest students and promising leaders in this school district and those that surround it. We were able to accomplish this through initiatives inspired by your efforts like Kid Central, where we bring in children from the surrounding community on Wednesdays and Saturdays to provide them with a hot meal and positive exposure to successful programming. We also accomplished this through successful mentorship initiatives like the Pathfinders for children ages 10 to 16 years old. This is high-level mentorship that is an effort to nurture discipline and expose them to outdoor survival skills, science, public speaking, drum corps, and athletics. We have a similar feeder program called the Adventurers for ages 4 through 9. We believe that to continue this great work in the Old Town East area, the Douglas School is key. As mentioned, we provide well-structured mentoring, resource matching, and the right blend of strategic intervention and compassion to make the future even brighter for these amazing opportunity youth. Our vision is to reimagine the Douglas School as a cutting-edge community development center. This fully restored and fully functional facility will be the home for the Columbus U.S. Dream Academy. More than after school and mentoring alone, this program would work from the principal beyond school Every young person should spend 11 to 15 hours in a stimulating work environment, building character, skill, and dreams. In addition to this, we could operate a satellite Mid-Ohio food bank where we could carefully prepare groceries and other supplies for children and families that are served by the Columbus School District. We can further expand Kids Central and the Adventurer and Pathfinder curriculum. One of the visions for this center would be to house the Family Academy, where children, parents, and caregivers are given the instruction and support that they need for the entire family to experience what it means to be a part of an Opportunity City. While we intend to also extend our worship facility to house programs in this center, we anticipate continuing our support of refugees that find it difficult to acclimate to the culture and pace of life here in this great city and great country. GED programs and small business incubators will also be the hallmarks of this center. Our vision is great, but it is only an evolution of what we are already doing. I am here to make a firm appeal that the Columbus City School Board allow us to join them in partnership to change lives and inspire a spirit of success in all of us. If you would consider providing us with the unique opportunity to pursue this vision, we are currently positioned to provide the funding. This may look like a long-term lease where we develop the facility, or a short-term opportunity where we develop an opportunity to sell the space to us, which is currently only 40 feet from where we currently operate. I am suggesting that and asking that you consider this as an opportunity to partner with an agency that is currently and will continue, with your support, make a significant difference.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boston. Are there any clarifying questions from board members for Mr. Boston this evening? Thank you very much for coming down, and thank you for your patience as well. And I do believe that that is our only speaker this evening that signed up. And now that we have done that, the chair will now entertain a motion that we adopt the agenda as it has been presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Treasurer?
Vice President Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Ms. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Peretti?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
President Baker?
Yes.
And Mr. Brown?
Yes.
And that motion carried.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to call on our superintendent to provide his report. And before he does that, I would like to wish Mr. Maurice Oldham a happy birthday today. Happy birthday, Mr. Oldham. Mr. Superintendent, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Baker, Vice President Cole, members of the board. The first board meeting in June should be a cause of celebration, with the ending of another successful school year just days ago and the handing out of diplomas to more than 2,300 graduates this past weekend. We should be proud to know that because of the collaborative and dedicated work of our teachers, our classified staff, and our administrators, and of course our community partners, we have kept our students safe in school and on our buses, fed them nutritious meals, and nurtured their growth and health, and helped them mature academically with new skills, broader talents, and bright futures ahead as they matriculate. The last day of the regular school year is always filled with congratulatory messages and a true sense of accomplishment, and this year all of those praises and celebrations were well deserved. Our district, our buildings and programs, and many of our individual teachers and staff have been recognized as some of the best in their profession around Ohio and across the nation. And we should have all enjoyed this series of Last Day CCS pictures our communications team collected and shared on social media, including some very special messages by the local TV news outlets. Once again, our celebratory message was trending on Twitter. There also are so many people in the district who should be thanked for helping an amazing 2,308 seniors become the latest alumni. That represents over 80% of the senior cohort in the class of 2017. I thank the members of the board who participated in the commencement ceremonies. You should know, though, that in addition to meeting our academic requirements for graduation, the class of 2017 also invested more than 500,000 hours in service projects and internships. And we have yet another breaking news number on scholarships. Our latest figures now show that our seniors earned a record $72 million in scholarships and grants for their post-high school education. That really deserves a round of applause. And with the school year coming to a close, we should recognize that for most of our employees, these summer months are a time to recharge and recommit to our district's mission. But this June, what should be, unfortunately, is not necessarily what needs to be. The members of this board are well aware of the challenges coming from the State House that could put at jeopardy the efforts of our teachers, our staff, and our district to sustain and enhance success. Next week, we expect to hear proposed language in the state's biennium budget. By all accounts, we are not expecting good news. The cap on state funding already cost this district $83.7 million in support that our students should have received. And any talk of flat funding or minimal increases would perpetuate and worsen matters. Such a move could create a rippling deficit effect, building to as much as a $185 million hole for the district in fiscal year 21. This board is also aware of the repeated disrespect shown to our students by the Ohio Department of Education when they fail to give adequate notice before moving requirements of matriculation and graduation far beyond any reasonable growth. Our current focus is on the third grade reading guarantee and how hastily set a new promotion score for alternative assessments clearly pushed too many too fast and will leave a large number of our third graders in an unfair limbo this summer and into fall. I truly believe the department's late moving of the promotion score without appropriate notice before the school year pushed many of our students off track and failed to recognize children's demonstrable learning growth. It is akin to Lucy moving the football on Charlie Brown just as he's already set to kick it. The sudden 10-point jump after the first quarter of classes deflated students and their excitement about closing in on that reading target they had previously been given by the state. That's why we need the department and the State Board of Education to reevaluate and reset reasonable expectations and assign a rigorous yet gradual transition on the third grade alternative assessment promotion scores. So what should be a time of revelry and recharging instead needs to be a time of making our voices heard. Our teachers, our staff, our families, and our community supporters and friends, they all need to feel empowered to reach out to the State Board of Education, to the department, and to the state legislature. They need to share their concerns on how these actions at the state level will cause instability in the classroom, in our operations, and for our students and their families. And they need to let others know that as a district, we are not spending this summer sitting idly by. We are taking action. Next week, we are launching our Mission Possible effort to go door to door and speak directly with the families of our third graders who still need to pass the test. We are filling up our summer school program, one of the largest in the region. Enrollment at the elementary and the middle school levels has been strong, and just this week, we launched high school enrollment. And we are ensuring that those seniors who still need resources to cross the graduation line and join the class of 2017 have access to coursework and options, including the new Industry Credential and Work Keys option. So what should be is not necessarily what needs to be. And what needs to be is action. Before I close and introduce our invited speaker, I want to address one more issue that's gained some attention, and that's our efforts to include vendors from all parts of our community. I'm talking about our district's Community Inclusion Program, aimed at supporting local economic disadvantaged enterprises, or LEDEs, which in turn strengthens the local tax base and increases the employment of local residents. We should note that over the past 3 years, the district has nearly doubled the overall LEDE participation in our daily business and operations. And yet still, we want and we need to see greater growth in this effort to engage and contract with more local vendors, especially in our daily district operations. The numbers are not where administration wants them to be as a district. To be fair, in fiscal year 2017 through the end of May, the district has already invested at least $21.3 million with LEDE companies. That represents roughly 26% of our board-approved contracting in business and operations. The district needs assistance from the private sector to identify and enlist more LEDE-eligible vendors to sign up for this program. Our business and operations team has already taken a number of steps to encourage greater participation, and the commitment is to continue taking the steps needed to boost these numbers. In closing, we should and we do take time to celebrate our success, but we know that our work is never done and that we need everyone, all of our teachers and staff, all of our community partners and families, everyone, to take action to allow us to sustain and enhance that success in the future for all of our students and for our city. So at this time, I'd like to ask one of our dedicated community partners to step forward. Mike Davis is president of Junior Achievement of Central Ohio and is here to provide a brief update on the Imagine Columbus project. Thank you.
Thank you, President Baker, Vice President Cole, members of the board, Superintendent Good. We're excited and thrilled to both be here this evening and to be partnering with yourselves, your education leaders, your teachers, and your curriculum team to partner with your students. Over the years, we've built a continually engaging program with Columbus City Schools. We've grown that dramatically over the last 7 years from around 2,200 students 7 years ago to this year that we're just finishing. To Dr. Good's point, we'll work with more than 9,900 Columbus City School students, representing more than 120,000 hours of support. And that is engaging the private sector with a couple of thousand, more than 2,000 volunteers from the business community. And for us, everything's a business, from government to faith to for-profit to non-for-profit, to come in and work with young people to help them understand career paths and opportunities that they may not have any idea exist until somebody walks in their classroom and talks to them about what their roles are in these organizations around the community. The Imagine Columbus perspective and program is what we're launching in collaboration with Columbus City Schools and school districts around the region, as well as business leaders, the mayor, the county superintendent, county administrator, and the folks at the county. We're talking to state legislators because it's a collaborative effort about how do we prepare young people, how do we engage them and connect them to these career opportunities, many of which exist today. Many of those opportunities will be created over the next number of years as these young people progress in their educational experience. Because as you probably well know, what we find is that young people are disengaging in their education. Gallup Poll has done studies over the last number of years where they look at what an engaged student is in elementary and middle and high school. Well, across the country and locally, 76% across the country, these are national numbers, 76% of young people in elementary school are engaged in their education. They're pumped up. They're ready to be at school every day. In middle school, that number drops to 61% of young people are engaged in their education. And in high school, it drops to 44%. And as we look and we talk to our colleagues, we talk to our peers, what we find is young people are wondering, well, how does this relate to what I'm doing in my life and what I want to do in my life? And so as we get to this Imagine Columbus, we're partnering with dozens of businesses, government sector, private sector, for-profit, not-for-profit, to build a center that will allow young people in our entire region, with a focal point on Columbus City Schools, to be aggressive and be assertive and understand what the opportunities are in their lives and link their passion to the professions that they'd like to pursue. And we appreciate the entrepreneurial nature of the Columbus City Schools leadership and the team as we co-create this passage together for these young people, as well as the business community and employment community and these young people in alignment with the education community. And we're incredibly grateful for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions or see if you have any comments. So I'll cede any time left back to you.
Are there any questions from board members, Mr. Vice President?
Thank you, Mr. Davis, so much for coming this evening. Myself and Dr. Good had an opportunity to sojourn to Georgia, Atlanta, to spend some time with Junior Achievement and see the wonderful things that are being done down there. Is this the model by which you're looking at for Imagine Columbus?
It is. It's a key model from around the country. Not shockingly, we want to do some things more impressively than they did in Atlanta. We're proud of what they've done. But what we're trying to do is really link it to the K to birth to 5 and then the higher ed piece so that there's a clear progression from birth to career and to retirement. So we're learning a lot from Atlanta and other communities, but one of the things that we're really focused on in Central Ohio is, and they talked about this a little bit, kids get lifestyle. They understand what lifestyle they want. They don't know how education links to a job, which links to the funding, the money that they get, which links to the lifestyle. So what our programs do is link those things together and show kids that early so they can build that path. Thank you very much for the question, Vice
Any other
President.
questions from board members? Board Member Gibbs.
And what type of professional development will be provided for our classroom teachers or for people who can support this curriculum?
You bet. That's a great question. Thank you, Board Member Gibbs. What we do is our team works with the educators at elementary, middle, and high. So we'll go in and work. In fact, that's already scheduled at this point, to be working with the teachers who are engaged in the in-class programs, the capstone programs, the JA BizTown, so that they candidly also are exposed to the financial literacy, workforce readiness, and entrepreneurial exercises that these kindergarten through 12th grade students get. So those resources are provided by Junior Achievement in support of and in collaboration with the leadership of Columbus City Schools.
Okay. And so what does success look like? How do you evaluate whether or not your program has been successful?
You bet. There are pre and post tests that we do around both programmatic content, attitude, behavior. What we are finding in the data that we do, and we have analytics around this, is teachers are reporting that students are much more engaged in their classroom activity months after the programs are done. So this connecting what's happening in school to their career opportunities and their life and what happens in the world that they see is not only showing that they're learning more about finances and how money flows and how they can solve problems and work in their careers, but it also shows that they're more deeply engaged in education. They have less bankruptcies, they save more money, their career paths are faster. So all of these analytical data, to your point, supports not only the impact immediately, but the long-term impact for both the young people as well as the community and the society.
Any other questions? Mr. Vice President?
Yes. Is a part of that success framework also transition to possible employment for our youngsters? We know that there's a beginning, but there's also, as we experience every year, this time of year, an end to our public education with graduating seniors. What does that look like in terms of employment opportunities that are part of this whole corporate partnership?
Right, on the local and global level, what we're finding in the research is that often junior achievement students are choosing careers that are modeled by the volunteers who come into their classroom. We're also building internship programs, which our partnership with Columbus Alternative High School and West High School has allowed us to build an internship program that's linking young people to these careers. So they're working with us every Tuesday, every Wednesday, or every Thursday. They're coming and working with us, working with the professionals in these different businesses and being exposed to career paths and building those relationships that help make that bridge happen, to your point, Vice President.
Mr. Superintendent, did you have something to add?
Well, first of all, thank you, Mike, for coming and sharing this. And as Vice President Cole indicated, we did have a whirlwind tour of Finance Park in Atlanta all in one day. But I think I will commend you on being very receptive to input from our curriculum team, Sherry Wells, Leslie Kelly, and others, to make certain that this would accommodate students that have IEPs that may have some significant needs, and so that this wouldn't be something that only appeals to a subset of our population, that it also accommodated the many non-native English speakers in our population, as well as the families of our students, knowing that oftentimes that narrative needs to continue in the home, and the only way that can happen is if they have that relevant experience that they share with their child. And then also your receptivity to making it available to un- or underemployed adults in our community, perhaps in evenings, weekends, but mostly, I kind of shuddered when you said a pre and post test, because I know we talked a lot about problem-based applications, so that it's a very real application of knowledge to very real problems versus another test that's a high sensitivity for all of us in our profession.
Exactly.
And I appreciate too that your commitment to really engage our faculty and staff, as you have so far, in the development not only of the experiences students could have, but the professional development for our faculty and staff and others that may mentor students through that program. So for the board, but also for the many people that are here in the audience. Junior Achievement has been very receptive to, and if you know Cherie and Leslie, you know we just hammer and hammer and hammer on them to make certain this is something that's both relevant and meaningful, and a rich way to integrate so many disciplines in a real hands-on experience that results in solutions that students demonstrate in ways other than paper pencil examinations. So thank you.
Absolutely, and one other quick point in that regard, one of the things that we're finding so powerful is the learning that's happening between educators and the employment community and the students and the parents. We're learning from each other. It's not just educators or not just business people or employers. It's how do we build that different model and how do we learn and evolve what we're doing. So your team has been incredibly supportive and helped us look at things differently as the other audiences and groups are helping us achieve that as well.
Board Member Reyes?
Dr. Good actually touched a bit on what my question was, Mr. Davis. I wanted to know a little bit more about how do we guarantee those students or even family members that want to participate have access? Do we know what our outreach or communication to students and the community is going to be to ensure that everyone who wants to have this opportunity has this opportunity?
Yes, we're working with the administration and the community to build the capacity to build that additional access for young people. I mean, part of the challenge is we were working with 10,700 students 7 years ago. This year we'll be at 25,000. With this program implemented, we'll be at 40 or 50,000 students. And part of this is the access to those kinds of that capacity and to be able to work with more students. And to Dr. Good's point, it's not just how many kids can we count. Mm-hmm. You know, our primary objective is the impact on the young people, the impact on the adults in the household, so that not only the young people see the opportunities, but the adults, the older people in the house, the parents, those folks who are caretaking for those young people also see the value proposition in that. So part of the reason we're going to the community and having this strategic conversation about not only youth development, but workforce development and economic development and how these things blend together, Board Member Reyes, is the exact kind of secret sauce of why so much energy and support and collaborations taking place in a unique way that's candidly not happening around the country as we talk to our peers.
Thank you. So as you look at your growth potential, are you also looking at the kind of a train-the-trainer type of programs where we have a lot of community partners, a lot of community centers and organizations that partner with Columbus City Schools? Are there opportunities? I mean, you can only grow so fast, so
right. How do we scale?
Yeah, how do you scale to ensure that, I mean, that's great that we do 40, but we have 56,000 students, 53,000 students, and probably 56,000 next year, and then parents, grandparents, et cetera. So are you also, in your model, are you looking at train-the-trainer type of opportunities? And
exactly. So part of an example of that is we partner with Boys and Girls Club, and they literally lease space from in the basement of the facility. It's gracefully provided by Columbus City School. So we partner with them to deliver the programs and work with their staff to deliver the programs for JA. So to your point, we're scaling and building the ecosystem so that more resources, more volunteers, more organizations are being able to support the young people around these financial literacy and career options. Because many organizations do great work, it's just not in this space. So they're utilizing our content and our relationships to help build that capacity so that we can scale it more quickly.
And just lastly, as far as we talked, Dr. Good mentioned having it in different languages or having access to different languages, culture competency testing. Are those going to continue to be monitored? Sometimes we don't find out that something may be not scaled the right way, culturally, genderly, age-wise.
With vision, with speech.
All that. Do you have a monitor
We're building that capacity out as most entities are. We're working with those students come to BizTown now that have all of those dynamics at play. We deal with schools, not specific population, to Dr. Good's point. So all the students in that school come. And so those capacities are there. And just to be honest and candid, I think as all organizations, we can all continue to improve in that regard. But that's one of the areas of focus with Dr. Good and the team, to say we've got to build stronger and better and more engaged capacity, both with junior achievement, with our volunteers, with the school districts that we work with, to be more uniform and effective in engaging those populations. So we're doing it, it's effective, and we need to continue to expand it and improve on it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Gibbs.
Yes. Just one last question. And for about 3 years, you caused an absolute frenzy in my house for BizTown on who was going to be the mayor or who was going to be the baker. I mean, yeah, I know y'all had to live through this as teachers. So I ended up with like a banker, somebody who drove a bus, and somebody who worked in administration. None of them ended up as school board members. So let's talk about that. And the
They
vision
may need
for...
a couple more years to get there, but
Yes.
they're maybe all on the way.
Let's make sure education's in our next part. But, it's an amazing tool. I watched it. I watched the excitement of the kids getting ready to go and what jobs they'll have. But that was at the elementary level. Where are you finding your model for success and engagement for middle school students? Like, there's just,
Right.
if you figure that out, we want to bottle it and sell it. But just who are you benchmarking against? Who's the top, and how are we going to get to be the number one?
You bet. It's a great point, and it is at the core of what Imagine Columbus is. The JA Finance Park that Dr. Good referenced is that middle school program that has that deep engagement for grades 6th, 7th, and 8th, and in some cases 9th, to give young people more depth of understanding, not just running a business, but how do you make personal decisions? How do you pay for your housing? How do you pay for your transportation? It is a deeply engaged program, very similar to BizTown, where these young people walk out of these 18 to 20 sessions in preparation, come on site and live the life of making decisions about their personal finances and their lifestyle, and they leave that experience going home and having conversations with their parents about, I had no idea that this is what your life was like.
Yes, before they ask for all that Chipotle. So how will you maintain, I know you'll partner with us, but how will you stay current on the Ohio Content Learning Standards and the ever-changing linkage we need to be with our financial literacy and staying in touch with that world?
You bet. Well, fortunately, we're a part of a group known as Junior Achievement USA, and we have national scholars and business leaders who build and evolve the curriculum every year. And with those groups, they align everything we do with the Ohio standards for all the different capacities. So it's not 10 people or 20 people in Columbus trying to figure out how this happens. It's done at a national level and then customized by state. So every one of our programs, kindergarten through 12th grade, aligns with the Ohio academic standards that are required around English, language arts, math, social studies. So again, it's just not business people sharing with kids business acumen. It's aligned with what the teachers are responsible to deliver. And we have all kinds of testimonials where the teachers come back and say, this gives a kid an understanding about what we're teaching and how it affects them in their life.
And if there are adults who want to volunteer with you, specifically from minority communities or underrepresented communities, how would they be able to participate in your program?
You can call Junior Achievement of Central Ohio, and my name's Mike Davis. Give me a call, drop us an email, connect with us online. We have a couple of thousand opportunities a year, and it's a great experience for both adults and for young people.
Thank you.
Gibbs, thank you.
Mr. Vice President?
Yes, very quickly. We earlier had a conversation very briefly about capacity building. What does that look like in terms of physical space? In Atlanta, they used a convention center. I mean, it was humongous. It had any scalable kind of business that you can think of, from banking to insurance to automotive sales. I mean, it was incredibly immense. What are we looking at in terms of building that type of capacity here? And ideally, what is the investment?
Well, the size of the facility that we're looking for is probably in the 30 to 35,000 square feet of space to deliver that kind of experience for BizTown and Finance Park, and give us the capacity to manage that as junior achievement. So we're looking at the facility that we currently partner with Columbus City Schools with to look at the capacity there. And we also have other developers, other folks who are talking to us about potential other space. The price tag, as you might imagine, is going to be totally dependent on the partnerships and who steps up and says, we're so excited about this, we'll provide X or Y or Z. So we haven't prejudged the outcome of that conversation. Part of the collaborative nature of this is bringing the community together to discuss what are we trying to create and what do we want this to look like. Being the smart city that we are and we're going to be, we want this to be the model. So when someone says, what is that like? They can come to see 30 to 35,000 square feet of that here in Central Ohio with Junior Achievement, Columbus City Schools, and our other education and business partners in the region.
Board Member Brown?
Just briefly, I wanted to thank you for the interest and energy that you bring to our young people and to the community. I have had experience in several different capacities with junior achievement programs. In the past, our daughters participated. They're now 38 and 40, so it's a few years ago. But it was good experience, and you know, the work you're now doing and propose to do, you know, are beneficial for everybody involved, including obviously the volunteers and the adults. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
And Mr. Superintendent?
For the benefit of those that may not be familiar with BizTown or Finance Park, some of us are old enough to remember SimLife or SimFarm. Remember those little digital things where you kind of created a farm and took care of things, and you dealt with concepts of scarcity and supply and demand, and then you had to address all of the micro ecosystems that influence that, whether it be economic or social or civic or ethic. And so all of those are very tactile experiences in Finance Park coupled with BizTown, and in fact is our vision as we move away maybe from what used to be a very packet-driven sessions to more hands-on, interesting applications for our students. So I'm excited about the possibility. I'm also excited that we continue to hold to the notion that we also need to have a room with nothing in it so that we can begin to create a mini society that makes sense to us versus one that it's imposed by our current millennial definition of what corporate America looks like and how it must function, so that we can really generate that creativity and foster new ways of people working together and promoting justice and healing and peace.
And your students are just knocking these business folks out that come in to volunteer to help the kids. And these volunteers come out and say, you wouldn't believe the creative ideas that these kids are coming up with that we could never fathom as a problem that we don't even know that problem exists, and they're solving it in high school. So again, you've been very generous with your time. Thank you very much. We appreciate the partnership. We're very grateful for the time and the energy that both you and your team share with Junior Achievement and our partners.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very
Davis.
much.
Good night. Anything else from you, Mr. Superintendent? All right, so I want to, any other questions on the superintendent's report? I just want to echo what the superintendent said on a couple issues. One is the state budget. We have all been following this very closely, and I do want to challenge those folks in the legislature to think long and hard about potential impact on the decisions that they're making related to this budget. District has been making great strides, and the last thing we want to see is those reversed because of bad decisions made outside of our control. Also, thank you for your comments on the State Department's questionable actions related to 3GRG. Thank you very much. I couldn't agree more. And also would ask them to think very seriously about decisions that they make and the impact that those decisions have on our children. Also wanted to thank everyone who contributed to another great school year, and I'd like to ask everybody who is an employee of Columbus City Schools to stand up so this board can recognize you for a great year. So if you work for the district, stand up and be recognized. Congratulations. Congratulations. All right. If there is nothing else for or from the superintendent, and I'll note that Board Member Hudson had to leave to catch a plane. Let's move on then to our internal auditor. Madam Internal Auditor, have you anything to share with the board?
Thank you, President Baker. I do not have a report this evening.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Treasurer, have you a report for the board this evening?
Thank you, President Baker. I have no report, but just an announcement, a reminder that the Finance and Appropriations Committee's next meeting is Thursday, June 15th at 4 p.m. in this room.
Thank you very much. The chair will now entertain a motion that we approve the consent agenda as it has been presented to us. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there questions on any pieces of legislation contained within our consent agenda this evening? Board members? All right. Yes, Mr. Brown. Mhm.
I really appreciate the administration getting us the information in such a well-organized and timely manner, because there's a lot here, and it did provide us a good opportunity to study that. So thank you.
Yes, Mr. Peretti.
I just want to say thank you to all the cash donations and donations from Clintonville Go Public, Indianola K PTOs, and from Interstate Studio. It's always nice to say thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions or comments on legislation from my colleagues? Hearing nothing further. Mr. Treasurer, please.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes, except for 14.8, 14.9, which I vote no.
Mr. Peretti?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
President Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Cole?
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Now, Mr. Superintendent.
Certainly. Thank you, President Baker, Vice President Cole, members of the board. It's a pleasure for me to introduce your newly approved administrative appointments. First, from leadership intern to the elementary school assistant principal at Huey A.G. Bell, Tiffany Genton. Tiffany, would you please stand? Oh, you're standing. Okay. Congratulations. From leadership intern to elementary school assistant principal at Colerain, Carmelita Hamilton. Carmelita. I imagine Berwick will be excited, although the newly appointed middle school assistant principal had to go. His name is Rodney Johnson. I've had the good pleasure of working with him before. You'll be very pleased. So we'll give him a round of applause, even though he's not here. And then we have a, there it is, a promotion for actually extension from supervisor A220 to supervisor C260, meaning she works more days, less money per day. But it's Dr. Danielle Bomar. Dr. Bomar. And Dr. Bomar, you've just been extraordinary at the Options for Success program, and we're so thrilled with the progress you're making and with the diversion opportunity it provides to our faculty and staff so that students can continue their learning in a different kind of structured and supportive way. And our hope, of course, is that that translate maybe into alternatives in every building for students so they have those places they can go and redirect. So thanks again for your modeling and for your commitment. It's been very, very successful.
Thank you. Congratulations to all of those new administrators or promotions and other changes. Thank you very much for your service. All right, that moves us on then to announcements. Board members, have you any very brief announcements you might like to share this evening? Mr. Peretti?
Thank you. And just to reiterate what the treasurer had already announced, that we do have a Finance and Appropriations Committee next Thursday. You know, our Finance Committee is really there as a tool to open up what's going on with the programs, what's going on with our facilities, what are we doing in our district on a year-to-year basis, and how it flows into our 5-year forecast. We all know here that school districts are reliant on levies, and they're reliant on the state funding formula. It changes every 2 years. I'm sure everyone knows that, but it's a difficult thing. Our job, and one of the things that I'm proud of and I love doing with this committee, is educating not only ourselves, but also educating the public about what's going on with our finances, how the money flows, how sometimes it seems like it's unfair, how it changes from year to year to year, because quite frankly it is. Our Finance and Appropriations Committee are open to the public. I welcome people to come. And as an employee of the state legislature, I would welcome anyone to give me a call or an email anytime on ways they can best advocate to the state legislature what's going on with their school district, why they believe that this school funding formula is not okay. So you can reach me anytime at 614-735-5200, or you can email me at donperetti@gmail.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peretti. Any of the board members have any brief announcements they might like to share? Board
Yes. Thank you, President Baker. Just a few brief announcements. The Innovation and Reform Committee had an amazing work session a few weeks ago. We were hosted at Champion Middle School, and really would like to thank Dr. Stanford, Mrs. Bland, who's the principal, and Ms. Cherie Wells, and all of the community members who came out to make that a very successful meeting. We were visited by a new pilot from Columbus City Schools and Recreation and Parks, where they are considering providing food trucks for school lunch. Imagine that. And I know, right? If they can get the Fiestada back, we'll be on. But we were gracious enough to see that program and to have a chance to talk about what our next generation of innovative programs and ideas will be in a district. Our next meeting is Tuesday, June 13th at 5:30 p.m. at Columbus Downtown High School. The meeting will go over some of our ideas and talk about our SWOT analysis. Again, that meeting is open to the public. You can call and RSVP for the meeting, let us know you're coming, and we will talk about what do we think are the next best ideas and how feasible they will be for implementation in the Columbus City School District. So just as you heard about Finance Park, we're looking at what is that next generation of theme-based schools? What is that next governance practice or that next efficiency model that will help us save money, become more efficient, govern better, or provide greater opportunities for our students? So if you have an opportunity, please feel free to stop by.
Thank you. Any other board members? Board Member Reyes?
Thank you, President Baker. Just want to remind everyone that our Kicking It with Columbus City School, student-led, produced, run program, radio program, taping on June 24th. Centennial High School will be airing on June 24th at WCBE 90.5 radio. We had saxophone players, poetry slam winners, vocalists, and other scholars and athletes represented on that radio show. So if you get an opportunity, tune into WCBE 90.5, and we'll be doing more showings throughout the summer. I think it's 3 o'clock, Ms. Gillison? No. The show airs at 3, I think?
Yes.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
3
on
o'clock, June
WCBE.
24th, WCBE 90.5.
absolutely.
So you want to talk about the student clap out?
Yes, I mean, well,
While you're at it.
President Baker
Yes, ma'am.
and members of the board, several of our high schools partnered with their area feeder pattern elementary schools. And as our high school students participated in graduation rehearsal, and they had their cap and gowns, and so then they walked to the nearest elementary school, and there was a ceremony there at the elementary school where the elementary students lined the halls and clapped the students through. And we did this not only to celebrate our seniors, but also so that our young people can see what it looks like, and so to motivate them, and it went really well. So the year before, we had 3 schools. We doubled that this year, and we're looking to triple that next year.
Very good. Mr. Vice President?
Thank you, Mr. President. Very quickly, I had the wonderful opportunity to officiate over about 6 different graduations this past weekend. It was just a wonderful experience. It's one I enjoy every year. I want to thank our educators who are in the room. I know the Herculean task that you all engage in on a daily basis to ensure that our youngsters are able to not only finish their year, but be prepared to walk into adulthood and assume that role and responsibility. So I thank you all for that work. I've had the unique opportunity to do that personally in a neighboring school district. But one thing about the clap in, or the clap out, excuse me, I love to see a clap in. I'd love to see a clap in for our ninth graders, for our incoming freshmen, that enclave of students that from time to time we have a challenge to being able to keep a hold of. You heard Mr. Davis say some 44% of those students seem to have or maintain a fervor, if you will. Well, what about the remaining 56% of those kids that we can continue to hold on and clap them in for that journey and get them to see the vision for finishing that high school and getting their diploma? So I'd love to see us do something with that incoming freshman class of students where we can work towards retention and building excitement with them.
Mr. Superintendent?
A lot of you are looking at me because you know we do those clap-ins. So we're going to make certain Vice President Cole and the rest of the board know where those occur this coming year. And I thank you, faculty and staff for that commitment. Well, I mean, he issued the invitation. Here we go. Let's put it all together. It'll be great. I'm going to do a shout out for Vince Clarno, who organized, obviously, their graduations. Good job. It's pretty amazing, and I take one indulgence each year. I put on really ugly dress shoes, but they're very comfortable, and I put a wristband on every single graduate, which is why we stagger the graduation ceremonies the way we do. And it's also the only time I ever ask Chris Ward if he'll be so kind as to have his staff take me around in a car so we can get from the Ohio Theater to the Convention Center, out to Afrocentric, back to Linda McKinley, and back down in the circuit. And so Chris, for you and Eric and Crystal and Gabe, thank you very, very much. You were very helpful. Ed O'Reilly, congratulations. I know that you continue to support principals and teachers and helping students cross the stage. Danielle, obviously many of those wouldn't have been able to do that without your support. Keisha Hunley-Jenkins, Steve Stevenson, Greg Gillum, who ran our mentoring programs. It was just extraordinary. I have the data on that, and clearly if you have a mentor, 75% chances, you have a 75% greater chance of crossing the stage. So that's pretty significant data that supports that effort and all of the mentoring efforts across our community. Sandy, Marcy, Cherie, Kathy, David, Alicia, I could go on and on. There's so many people, including our communications staff, Scott, Jackie, Terry, Lisa, and Barb. But mostly for the people that are here tonight. I know you're here in solidarity for a very different signal or symbol, but I won't miss that opportunity to tell you that we love you, and I thank you so much for what you do every day. It is appreciated. There's no amount of money in the world that would be enough to reward you for the sacrifices that you give, and I know the board feels that way as well. So it's probably inappropriate of me to say that, but I can't miss that opportunity when you sit here for us to celebrate who you are. So I'm going to stand up and applaud you for what you do.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Board Member Brown, did you have a final comment?
Yeah, just very briefly, I wanted to note with some sadness passing last week of Eugene Brundage. Many of you will know who he is. He was very instrumental and key with respect to the State Employee Relations Board for many, many years. I knew Gene for a long, long time, and he was just one of the best, nicest people, and helped make sure that agency did what it could and to be as helpful as it was over many years. So just wanted to note that. He was an employee of Columbus Schools. Yeah, I knew him more in connection with CERB than anything else, and I do go back far enough, not only before the Sim City stuff. I hadn't reached that stage yet, but also at the when CERB was first created, and just always respected that work and organization.
Thank you for sharing that, Board Member Brown. He continued his life of public service right up until the very last minute, and so he's definitely, he was a mentor of mine and many others, and so that's the type of person that we need more of. No doubt about that. Any other final comments? Yes, Ms. Gibbs.
Yes, thank you. Really quickly, I don't want the opportunity to pass. We have tons of celebrations, and we have, as you say, over 2,300 students who graduated. However, if we have a young person who still needs to pass tests, grades, who wants to make summer graduation, Dr. Good, who should they call? And can you please let us know, for those students who received a 389 or a 398 or something right below that cut score, what resources are available to those students who still need to pass some of those tests, or still who may still need credits to graduate and make summer graduation?
Good evening, President Baker, Vice President Cole, and Ms. Gibbs. I was waiting for a question. We have for our seniors, non-grads, we have set up we have an OGT Institute, and that is in session right now. The students are being tutored, and we will have an opportunity for the students to then take the exam one last time. We also then have set up for them to be able to make up credits, any credits that they need to make up, so they can be prepared to also potentially graduate. We also have a new opportunity through Peggy and Cleary's Workforce and Development Office. The students have an opportunity to do the credentialing opportunity, and that will be, we're focusing on construction and in STNA. Students will have that as another option for them to take, so that they can earn the credits and the points to be able to graduate. So we have those services, and we also will have our mentoring initiative program. We'll be really reaching out to those students, contacting them, and mentoring them and encouraging them throughout the summer as well, so that we can then increase our number of students, non-grads to graduates in August. So those are the support systems that we have.
So for the benefit of the viewing and the listening audience, who do they call?
Well, we have assistant principals or principals, and then counselors who will be working with the students. They can call the summer school office, and that's 365-5010. They can also contact their school as well, because there will be administrators in the buildings that will be reaching out to those students as well, in addition to the summer school office. But they can reach out to their individual schools, or they can contact the summer school office at 365-5010, and we can then direct them to who they need to speak to.
Okay, so parents, friends, aunts, uncles, colleagues, make sure, I know we're happy that, we have the 2,300, but we want everybody to get across the finish line.
Definitely.
And even if you have not finished yourself and you need to study for a GED, do whatever it takes to get it done. It's easier to do it now than to wait. So
Right.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
They can go to their school building, or they
Yes.
can call the summer school office and
Definitely.
get that information.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, and just last thing, I'd like to, in addition to the other thanks, I'd like to thank the people who sit here literally on the front line with us. So Treasurer Bahorek, Internal Auditor Smith, Mr. Oldham, again, happy birthday, General Counsel Braverman, Deputy Superintendent Stanford, Chief Academic Officer Alicia Gillison, and Director Johnson from the City of Columbus, our Superintendent. And I don't want to forget J.C. Benton, who probably suffers a great deal on our behalf. Just thank you very much for a great school year. Is there anything else for the good of the cause this evening?
No call for the question.
I think I heard a motion for adjournment. Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded. Mr. Treasurer?
Mr. Peretti? Yes. Ms. Reyes? Yes. President Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you. We stand adjourned. Have a great summer. Thank you so much for your service.